It's 11/16 on 7/25/2019. Um, I'm just sort of starting a new um, uh, prayer or worship cycle, I guess. I'm working with a Morigan energy now, so I thought I would just leave the phone recording as I go throughout my thinkings and dwellings and talkings, which seems to be what helps the understanding collect a little bit more. So what I was saying was I was wanting to get used to the Morrigan energy and to sort of bring it into my space that I'm working with a little bit more. And as I was thinking about that, I looked up on the TV and I saw um, it was the capital, the capital of the United States in Washington D.C. And as I looked at Washington D.C., I could tell a few things right off the bat. I saw to the left of the screen, of the TV screen, I saw what looked like the um, the yard in front was more of an opening up, almost like a flower that had opened up, had already opened. And then when I looked to the opposite of that, I saw more of a straight and narrow sort of road or walkway for, I guess, the people that would walk back and forth. I thought that was interesting because one is the opposite of the other. You'd have more one that was blossomed or opened, and one that was more logical and straight. And then I noticed the actual capital itself has three main parts to it. Two of them are kind of similar, but on opposite ends of one another. There are two rectangular-like portions of the capital, and in the middle there's a circular. Once again, you've got the logical, straightforward, and then you've got the circular or the round of the opened up, which was the actual middle part of the capital. So I immediately saw that as that's work that has been done by people who were a little bit more knowledgeable in the development and the building of things, hence masonry. And so I linked that to, at that moment, since it came up and it was 11/11, the time was 11/11 at that time, I took it as a synchronicity as far as me trying to get in touch with the Morrigan energy, which I think the door was open at that time, or that's what I'm alluding to. And then after that I started thinking, well, how do I get in touch with the Morrigan, or how would the Morrigan like to be connected with her if it was going to come and dwell in my current space? What would make it comfortable? Well, then I noticed it was a little bit bright inside of the room, and so I turned the TV itself off, and I also turned off the lamp, and that kind of made it a little less bright. And then I thought how your mind or your brain, when there's more light, your intuitive side or your other less logical side doesn't come through as much because the light is there to sort of guide and give and instruct a little bit more. But when the light's turned off, you have more of your mind is able to focus on subtler things that are more inside your mind. Maybe things that you thought about, things that you feel, so it's it's an opposite side. With the light being off. Then after that, I was asking, well, what else would the Morrigan want when coming into a dwelling or a space like this? Well, I had my rings on, and I immediately started to felt the need to take off my rings, my serpent ring and my ankh ring. I've been taking them off at night. My fingers, the rings feel a little bit tight, so I've been taking them off. So I felt the need to take it off to be more comfortable. And so I realized, okay, comfort then. Comfort is something that not just the comfort, right? Because we have to look at opposites when doing this, right? Because, for example, when we were seeing the picture of the Washington D.C., the capital, you had the opposites. You had the more open up end or blossoming end of the building and the more logical, condensed end of it. So these are opposites, right? So you have to pair up opposites. So if then the Morrigan is about comfort of some sort, then there must be a keenness or an understanding of what we would perceive as being uncomfortable. The Morrigan is symbolic of life, death, and rebirth. It's kind of tied into the Trinity. And to confirm this, that the Morrigan is linked to the Trinity, you can look at, there's an aspect of the Morrigan where they say she is actually a part of the Tuatha De Danann, which are the children of the goddess of Danu, which, if you go back further enough and if you search in certain places, you come to find out that Danu is actually Anu from Sumer, and somehow and for some reason, the Celtics actually changed it a bit. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe they felt the need to not have a masculine-oriented archetype and made it more of a feminine archetype, which it would make sense because if they were basing it around, maybe if the land was that the land was that type of energy, because they would have landed in old Britain, right, or in Ireland, right? And so if the land itself was more feminine in nature, Britain, even Ireland is surrounded by water, right? So maybe that's more of the vibe that they were kind of going along with, as opposed to the more masculine Sumerian, Babylonian, Anunnaki-oriented archetypes, which is why we have a lot of the goddesses from the Celtic mythology and the Celtic lineages, essentially, right? So, okay, so if the Morrigan is actually a Tuatha De Danann, then she's linked, or because I believe it's trine, it's just Trinity oriented. It's the maiden, the mother, and the crone, but it's also, there's an aspect of the Morrigan, which I guess is her son. But maybe that even means the son of the Morrigan, meaning like the soul, or kind of like how sun means the physical sun, but it also means the esoteric sun. So maybe the Morrigan, which I don't know, maybe Morrigan is more, it equates more to the masculine aspect of the Morrigan, as opposed to, say, Morgan Le Fay, which would be more female aspect oriented. So, okay. So that was just two. And that's kind of how we do this when we build up this archetypal framework. And I think I haven't done this in a long time. I think I did it when I first got involved with my ancient Egyptian path work. I think I really delved in with the archetypes and creating and understanding and building that. I think it has a lot to do with that new freshness. I think when you've been working with an energy for a period of time, I think it's almost like you get comfortable with it, and I don't know if it I think maybe it dissipates, like it wanes or waxes, and then, it wanes, and then it just sort of disappears until you build it back up. But sometimes building it back up is very, very difficult, and I think that's actually why I'm on this particular track right now, because I kind of feel like the Egyptian Sumerian energy just kind of came to an end, almost like I pulled a lot of information down and I connected with those energies, and it seems like for those particular times that I was going through, it was very connected, very responsive. But I don't feel like that's happening anymore. Or maybe I'm just mentally too busy and I can't just slow down enough to have things naturally happen. I don't know. But it's kind of why I'm recording this down here, so that I can kind of go back and I can sort of reread and listen to what I've kind of been going through. Maybe I can make this more logical going forward. Have an actual handbook or an actual understanding of how you actually walk energy, or how you, which I did before. I don't understand. I came up with a how to walk energy from, but I guess maybe I'm at the end of that, right? Maybe that's kind of what. So I'm starting up again. And so instead of starting up with the same energy I was working with before, I don't know, I think maybe I need to go on to something new. I was going to try the Atlantean energy, but it seemed like that was just another carbon copy of the Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Babylonian energy. And there's less information on that, and I just don't know if I was really ready to go into that. I'm sure it'll come back around at some point down the road. So off we go to the Isles, right? The British Isles. We go off to Ireland. We go off to Britannia, right? As I was there was something that was on the internet probably early this year about how the BBC put out some news article on how they found Neanderthals in, I'm not sure if it was in Ireland or if it was in England somewhere, but they found these Neanderthals, these Cro-Magnon. I don't know if they were Cro-Magnon, but they were big ass like people who had lived in that area. And what they found out was these people actually had the same DNA as some African descendants did, and so they had sort of rationalized that they were they were most likely from Africa, and a lot of people left that continent after a period of time, and it's very possible that they went to the British Isles or to Ireland, and that's kind of what happened. So it's a natural progression to go from, say, like a Sumer, Babylonian, Mesopotamian culture to a I don't know what you call it, to a Celtic, because there's a link there because of the Tuatha De Danann. That's the link, right? So that's all in just the first two steps of how to generate some energy for when you go do your meditations and your prayers or your rituals or your work, whatever you do. There has to be a three. There's always a three, right? So the first is you need to have less light because she is a moon goddess. So less sunlight, less solar light, right? And then two, there's a level of comfort. But then in comfort, you possibly even have stagnation, which then leads to death. So it has to be a balance of these things, right? Like a balance between light and dark. The moon does cast a light, but it's not as strong as the sunlight. So it's a balance between the two. Comfort, you have to have a balance. If you're too comfortable, then you stagnate, you die. If you are uncomfortable enough, it keeps you responsive and moving forward and progressing. So what would the three be? The three. Three, that's kind of where I'm at right now. What would be a third thing that the goddess would want if she was going to come and dwell with you? Your time, your attention. She comes in bearing protection. So maybe with the first two, you get a third. So you get the first two by, you have the lessening of the light, which then illuminates your own light, right? And then you have the balance of comfort. Because even then turning off the light does put you in a place of, if you're not you're not completely safe or secure in the place that you're in, you turn the lights off, it kind of puts you in a different space because you can't see the things in the darkness. So there's those two to kind of pair together. And then maybe the third is the protection. Maybe that's what it is. Oh, that brings up an interesting, some interesting insight. Let's just say, for instance, okay, let's trip this off. Okay, we just came to the first two conclusions. The first two conclusions were, the first was light, right? If you can turn off the sunlight, then your internal light should illuminate. So you have light, right? Light and dark, right? Contrasting. And then you also have comfort, balance of comfort and stagnation, right? Comfort and stagnation, right? So you have light, dark, comfort, and stagnation, right? And then because of that, if you put yourself into a situation where you don't have as much light, and you're not maybe as comfortable, maybe you're not really, maybe you're in the, I don't know, somewhere where it's dark, where you've made it dark, and you're quite comfortable that you're secure in the darkness. But let's just say, for instance, if you're not completely feeling, because the light is off, and I think light does give a form of protection mentally, emotionally. I think it does. Even to know that if a light is off and there's complete darkness around you, I think there's still that small, minute aspect of you that feels something could happen. Like you could walk and bump a toe. Something could happen, right? As opposed to if the light was on, you probably wouldn't bump your toe if you were walking, right? So the third thing that you would get by contributing your lack of security by turning light off, which would precede a meditation, right? And then also seeking comfort, but also knowing that you are uncomfortable. Because of the very reason that and actually before this I was feeling uncomfortable, which is why I started to start working and looking with this energy. So there was an uncomfort that was there, and then I wanted to be comfortable. So there is a form of, there's a correlation there. The third would be then, dare I say maybe, then you do get the love and the protection. But those would be the same, love and protection, wouldn't it? So you'd have to pair up love and war. You would get the love and the war paired together. That would make sense for, well, how they portray some of any of our highly advanced spiritual races. We would be a blend of fighter and then also compassionate person. It should be both. So love and war. So let's just say you have, number one, you have light and dark, right? Which equates to security and lack of security. And then you have comfort and uncomfort, or discomfort and comfort, which would then kind of be on the cross of life and stagnation. It's life or stagnation, which is life and death. And then love and war, which then would be on the cross. Peace, well, yeah, love and war. We figure that one out later. I'm not quite sure what that would be. Love and war, maybe justice and injustice. That's possible. Okay. So I'm going to see if those three help me ease into sort of understanding, feeling this energy out a little bit more. I haven't really worked with the Celtic energy exclusively before, so I'm not. But I have had an encounter with it. I had a dream where I saw a goddess on an open green field, as if it was in Ireland or on some grassy knoll somewhere. And there was a king there. And she was anointing him with the beer. Now, I don't know who the hell this king was. I mean, I don't know if it was maybe just something playing out, like maybe if it had happened before. That's what it was. So maybe I was experiencing something at that time, therefore I was seeing what had been done beforehand, the anointing of the land, the rule by sovereign rule. And it was more the Morrigan who was there, most important. It was the Morrigan, or it was Mad. I think it was the Morrigan. I don't think Mad came to me until I started really thinking about her a little bit more after working from the Morrigan to there was another goddess. She had red hair. Caridwen, that's what it was. Caridwen. So maybe I'll make this the second part of this video, the second part of this audio. Okay. So yeah, so I'm going to end this with that's would be a great way of how you would get into a meditation or a trance, or a way to start working with a particular energy, especially from the beginning. So this is me signing off, and I'll start the next one here soon. Alright, right afterwards. The next one will be about the three that came to me over the course, I think it might have been a couple of weeks or so. So the Trinity that came to me from working with this energy. So stay tuned. Alright, this is episode 2 of the Morrigan. Actually, I like this. I'm kind of actually digging it. Yeah, I actually like that. We'll see how it goes when I get into the actual meditation portion of it. So so far, I haven't even gotten to the meditation portion of it. I feel when I work, I have to build up a framework, a cultural framework. I have to build up a kind of like when you watch a movie or read a book, or when you're talking to someone, talking to a friend, you listen to the world that is going on and around them, and you feel your mind and your thoughts and your space with that particular information that you're sharing with that person or with those people, right? And so that's what a lot of this is connecting with an energy. And I found that you connect with an energy on a personal level, as if almost as a family member. It's a bit more stronger. I've been having some issues slipping into meditations here recently, which is why I decided to pick up doing something else and working with the Morrigan and the Celtic energy, simply because I don't really know why. I just felt like I was not having that connection as much afterwards. I think once again, because I got comfortable, and in the comfort, I think I was starting to stagnate, and which is why I was feeling these feelings of being upset and depressed and angry at times and things of that nature. So if I stir it up a bit, your mind starts to wander instead of you sort of assuming what's going to happen because you're comfortable with the situation. So it's about becoming uncomfortable. As I say this, I remember I was just talking to a friend, and I was telling them how I had realized that there was a sort of specialness, or there through all this work that you perform on yourself as you're trying to peel back all these layers, what you're really doing is you're getting to the core of yourself, which is vulnerability, and how this vulnerability is the real you. It's who you were so long ago before you started putting all the other layers of everything up. And it's just the core you. And at first, this is terrifying. It's freaking terrifying for days because, like I said, you've been putting up walls, or I've been putting up walls to protect your core self, who you were when you were like maybe first born, because you had to contend in this life or in this world, or you just had to get a little more serious, right? So a lot of this work, this path work, this meditations, personal, spiritual work is about peeling back all those layers to get to that part that you put all these walls and layers up to try to protect, which is ironic, right? But it's all about opposites, right? Life is all about opposites, at least this path work is. So, and then after I mentioned I mentioned this vulnerability tangent. I was watching a show, a Netflix show called The Dragon Prince. Very, very esoteric spiritual show. It's really good. And the king, he's about to get attacked and he's about to die. And he's writing this letter, note to his son, actually his stepson, and he's telling him how to be a good person and how to help his brother be a good king and be his moral code and ethic. And he says basically, don't create a future based on the past, because people will tell you and sell you on the past was achieved through power and conquest and all these things. And he's like, that's not the whole part of it. That's just a small part that they're selling you on. So he says, look forward towards the future and build off of your heart, and you can only really accomplish that through vulnerability. And he says it's something that he wished he had learned earlier on in life, but he was sort of passing this information or this idea down to his son, that vulnerability is what gave you the heart to do what's right if you were balanced, right? And it would allow you to create a future based on your emotion, love, not just for yourself but also for others. It was a great thing. So this was the term vulnerability sort of ringing in my ear, like I think it was within like maybe 6 hours or so, a few hours or so. So vulnerability has a bit to do with it. So when you get yourself out of, like I got myself out of working with the ancient Egyptian, the ancient Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Babylonian energy, and because I was comfortable with it. So now I've moved to the Celtic energy, and like I've said, if you've been listening to this, it puts me in a different place. I'm not really comfortable or used to it. It's not usual. So it puts me in a vulnerable position, and I think that I hope that vulnerability will jumpstart some part of me that connects with a part of the energy on the outside world. That's what I'm hoping for, to pull down that energy. It's funny, as I say that, I thought I just heard something as far as something singing. Anyways, almost like a flute, like a doot, 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 doot. Anyways, probably did, but whatever. It's alright. So, alright. So I want to talk about the Trinity that came to me. I don't know if I haven't really checked out what the actual Trinity was. I read it a while back, but I can't remember what it was. But the Celtic Trinity. So what happened with me was, first, I came across the Morrigan energy, and I was familiar with it a little bit because I've watched a few shows based on Merlin Arthurian lore that talks about Morgan Le Fay, or Morgana. So I know a little bit surface-wise of Morrigan, but it's different with Morgana. I think she was an actual like queen or something like that. That was I don't know, because they called her Morgan Le Fay, and I've been told that Le Fay actually means fairy. So I don't know if that means she was an actual fairy, or it means she practiced Fey. Like she practiced Fey energy. I'm not sure. I don't know if she practiced Fey magic. I don't even know if that is a thing. But she was a little bit darker towards the end, and I can see how that energy getting to a person might corrupt them a little more. The Morrigan came to me first, right? And like I said, I saw this this goddess on this green knoll, and she was anointing a king, giving him sovereignty over the land. So I was able to see get a glimpse of the rites that they used to do when the land was married to the king, and all these things. So I was actually shown that. And then after that, Morrigan is linked, she's very closely, to me at least, was linked to Ceridwen. And Ceridwen was the goddess of, I'm trying to remember, Ceridwen was, she created the three, there was a cauldron. Oh, she created, her son was, I can't remember his name, he was the bard. Taliesin, that's right, because I was going to use Taliesin as a name in a cosplay that I was doing. That's when I started learning quite a bit about the Celtic energy and lore. So, Ceridwen, she had a son, and she had a daughter, and then the son was ugly, and the daughter was not, and I can't remember the whole story on it, but she created some potion to make him, she boiled something like in a cauldron, and she made him handsome, I think. I can't remember. But that's linked to, I believe, I want to say the three Morrigans, but I'm not sure. I can't remember. But she was like a fertility or a life and death goddess as well. So we had Morrigan, and then we have Ceridwen, and then we had, afterwards, I started wanting to like learn and peek into Queen Mab, and I'd only known that from the movie Merlin that I watched. So her name, I thought it was M-A-A-B, and I've seen where it's spelled M-A-B, M-A apostrophe A-B, and also M-A-U-V, like Mav. So I'm not quite sure what it actually is. But she was called, I think she was like the queen of the fairies or something like that. I think that's what it was. So she was the queen of the fairies or the queen of the fae. Not quite sure what that actually means. Yeah, she was the queen or goddess of the fairy people. So that's as far as I got with Queen Mab. Those were the three shrines that came to me. I'll work with those in either as one or independently to see which one I resonate with, and then kind of go from there. So this recording will probably be a little bit shorter than the other one because the other one had more background information in it, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I'm gonna try implementing those. I'm actually going to implement those, and then I'll report back. So thanks for listening, and 10-4, check it out. Bye. I'm going to leave this fun. I just got some little messages. I went to the restroom and I just realized how people's expectations of life are a little bit different. You may have an idea of an end result, but how you actually get there, some people are not willing to make those sacrifices, which is understandable. I don't think I really understood that before, the whole, not just the end result, but the process that a person goes through in making a decision to not do something or do something. And so that happened probably like a couple of minutes ago. And just now, I came to a conclusion that I was going to use a triple goddess, which would be Morrigan, Caridwen, and Queen Mab. And in my head, I saw a young. Hold on, I gotta turn my light off. Hey Google, turn off Wajette. Hey Google, turn off living room. Okay, so what I realized was that what I saw, if I use a Morrigan, I saw her as a young Morrigan in my head. I saw a picture earlier on Pinterest, and I saw a young Morrigan with blackness in the background. She had a black dress on, and there were crows kind of like mixed in with the darkness around her, but she was young and she was vibrant. So I saw her as the maiden Morrigan, the young, vibrant one. We all remember being young when we were young and vibrant, and what we wanted whether we were right or wrong, and that's what she represents. The virility of being and exerting how you are, because you are that vibrant energy. Caridwen, more so being the mother, the understanding mother of fertility and life and death, but fertility, and her daughter is the young Morrigan, the young, I want to say passionate, not really fiery, but more so passionate as far as life and death and doing. And then you've got Mab, Queen Mab, who is the older, dare I say, I don't want to say cronish, but more wiser one, who even though Caridwen is wise, Mab is eons or ages more wise, a slower moving energy that's been around for a lot longer, that encapsulates the others, but they're all sort of the same. And then also so that would be the Trinity. But then I also saw each trine would have its own trine. And what that means is the Morrigan, even though she is the first maiden, she's the first part of the, one of the trine, the first trine in the Trinity of the Mab, of the Morrigan, Caridwen, and Mab Trinity. She's also the triple Morrigan as well. So she'd be the younger Morrigan, and then the more mature or motherly Morrigan, and then the older, wiser Morrigan she would take on or be blended with the other two that are in the main Trinity. And so would they take on the aspects of, say, Caridwen, would then take on an aspect of being the young Caridwen, who, yes, while still being like her in her mother form, would now be a younger girl mother form. Imagine a young girl who loves to take care of flowers and take care of animals, and loves to talk to nature, the things that are living. That would be a young Caridwen. The mother Caridwen would be the one who has done this for long periods of time, and her garden, her family, her flowers, her life are the things that she knows. And then there'd also would be the older Keridwen who would have done all these things, wouldn't necessarily be as actively involved in them, would have left them to her younger, maybe daughter or her younger self, and she's more of the age-old energy, kind of like Mab, where it's older and slower and more wiser than it is in its younger form, in its younger iteration, which we all can understand going through the younger to the maiden to the mother to the crone. And so you would just apply each one of those trinities to their own trine as well. And then we've got Queen Mab, who would then have her trinity where she would be like the young Mab. And that's where it gets interesting, because if she is the eldest of the eldest in this trine, and she has to take on an aspect of being young, what does the eldest of the eldest, how does it turn into the youngest? What is the energy of the eldest becoming the youngest? It's like, does it revert to such a state that's even beyond, say, the young girl? Does it what does it revert to? What is this predisposition energy? And maybe that's something that is to be revealed, because it is something that we don't know. And also, so that would be Queen Mab in her younger form, in her motherly form. She is the queen of the Fae, right? She's the queen of magic. Sorry, I heard something again. It's, I think, one of either a computer system or something in my apartment is whirring, and it almost sounds like it was singing. Like, I thought I heard, like, imagine like an old Irish or Celtic flute, where you can hear it humming in the trees at night. Just this maybe like wind blowing through a reed. Interesting visualization that just came to me all of a sudden. I have interesting visualizations and interesting work that I work on. That's kind of why I wanted to record them. This is not rehearsed. I am sitting here on the floor in front of my my little shrine that used to have Egyptian work on it, but now it doesn't. I have a picture of the great dragon Tiamat. I also have the sword, the wand, the cup, and the crystal in each of their respective places on my table. And I'm here talking, recording, and also just letting things flow through. So I think we'll leave that there, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye.